Welcome to Roland Garros Live with the team from Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. For 15 days, we'll have all the latest from Paris. Come and slide in to play with us on the Terre Battue. It is day 15 of Roland Garros. The clay court major is over for another year, and we have had an absolute showstopper to conclude the tournament. My name is Candy Reid. We've been doing this for a fortnight plus one because, of course, Roland Garros now starts on a Sunday. Every day had something terrifically thrilling about it. We've had two immense singles finals, both the women's and the men's. I'm delighted to bring in my guest today, Dave Samuel, a worthy coach, and I'm so excited to have him on the podcast. We're going to be joined shortly as well by my co-host on Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach, Mark Gellard. But Dave, thank you firstly for coming on. And secondly, did you watch all 5 hours and 32 minutes of that unbelievable final?
I actually didn't watch it all because I was at the Ilkley tournament and James Story was playing against Paul Jubb and they went 7-6 in the third. And James was double break down in the third and came back to force a breaker and then played a bit of a shocker of a breaker. So I actually missed the first two sets watching that, but I definitely saw the cream of the match in the last three sets.
So you've seen two amazing tiebreakers today. One went your way, one I'm sure you were a bit neutral on, but you just couldn't help but enjoy the tennis.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, on one level, I felt even before this match that for tennis, in a way, it was important for Alcaraz to win. And the reason I felt that is I just feel like Sinner is such a big, clean hitter of the ball through the court. And I think for periods of that match, he showed it where you kind of felt like if this guy gets through this in straight sets or, which it looked like it might be at one stage or 4 sets, that balance of power, might have just gotten a little skewed. But then Alcaraz showed exactly what a champion he is. And now I think we have a rivalry for the ages again.
Yeah. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've been practicing on the grass. Dave has been playing on the grass. What did you make of that final?
I didn't see all of it as well. We were on court practicing here in the Toggenbosch. But
it did last 5.5 hours, so fair enough.
Yeah, so we had a big enough window to catch it. I mean, I think you probably put that down as one of the finals of the ages in terms of, I think you could put that maybe with that 2008 final with Roger and Rafa. I thought it was incredible tennis and just such high level. And I agree with Dave, but I think both those guys, we're really lucky to have such classy guys that are really well-spoken. They present well, they play great tennis, and they both respect the game and the history of the sport. So I think it's a really great position for tennis.
Yeah, I actually picked Jannik Sinner to win the tournament right at the beginning. I mean, it was an easy pick. And of course, picking Carlos Alcaraz, the defending champion, would have been an easy one as well. And Dave, after Sinner won the first 2 sets, I was kind of look at me, how clever I am. I just wasn't expecting the comeback because, of course, Sinner hadn't lost a set up through to the final. It looked like he was going to win that in 3. What do you think changed? What happened?
I think you've seen it all through history. When you have great champions, it's almost like a stubbornness that just says, I will not lose a match like this without putting something out there and finding a way to make this incredibly competitive. But I mean, I still felt like Sinner was going to win it in 4. And obviously, I mean, love 40, you're home dry 99.9% of the time, being Sinner versus anybody, you don't kind of see that kind of comeback very, 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 very often. But I think it's that they're able to dig and find like almost like I don't know how to explain it, but like a real pull it out. I will not allow this to happen and me to go away quickly or easily or in straight sets.
Yeah.
And I think once you get your toe in a match, then there are possibilities. But still, for me, I mean, the thing is, I remember after, you had like Borg and McEnroe, and, then you have, sort of, Agassi and Sampras, and then you had the big three and kind of big four for a while. And everybody always thinks that tennis can never get better than this. I remember seeing Sampras beat Agassi in the finals of Wimbledon after Agassi in '99 when he won the French.
Yeah.
And the level that Sampras put out on that court, I thought, how's tennis ever going to be played better? And then, you had the, Federer, Nadal, and you're thinking, tennis can't be played better than this. And then you have Djokovic, Nadal, Djokovic, Federer. You think tennis can't be played better than this. Yet every generation finds a way to be better. And these guys, have pushed the bar that much higher.
Yeah. Mark, I remember your player, Magda Linette, played Beatrice Haddad-Maia on a clay court. I think it was a clay court last year. I think that was 3 hours, 45 minutes. This one was 5.5 hours. How do two people play for 5.5 hours at that level?
I just had dinner with Magda, and we just talked about exactly about that when we played her last year in Abu Dhabi on the hard courts. It was about 3:40. Okay. Yeah, it was about 3:45, and I remember, I basically had to carry her out of the building afterwards because she couldn't stand up and couldn't walk for the next couple of days. So how those guys have done it, I don't know exactly, to be honest with you. I'm not sure, but I mean, like Dave said, that and that's why I always feel like at some point Rafa's record will be broken there, because at every record.
Alcaraz would have to win every single one now till he's 35 to equal the record.
He may not. It will undoubtedly be broken at some point, because I think any record will be broken. Any record.
We probably won't be here to see it, Dave.
No, we won't be alive to see it, but it will be at some point. And I think in 10 years, in 100 years' time, we'll be saying players will be playing till they're 40 for sure. That's because that's just everything's going to go that way, right? People are going to live longer. The science will be better. 40 will be fine. And all of a sudden, you're going to say, yeah, that's why players can break records, because they can play double the amount of time players can now. I think that every record will be broken, but I think, like Dave said, the level that these guys raise the bar, and I think as well, it's interesting to me as a coach is, years ago you would teach, and when I learned tennis, you would teach, if somebody hits deep, you go back and you play the ball up deep, cross court back, and if it's short, you can maybe attack it down the line, and you had these kinds of these rules in tennis, right? And the rule now is that you have to be able to hit any shot from anywhere off either side. That's what has to happen now. You can't. These guys never wait for if you can take a swing at the ball, you swing. That's it.
I think the one thing that hasn't changed that much is height. These guys hit the ball, a good couple of meters over there, but it's the speed and the spin that they have now.
Yeah.
So out of defense, it's not slow height, and it's not like super high, but they're hitting some good 2, 3, 4 meters over the net sometimes, but the speed at which they're hitting it is just so and when it hits the court, it's going off the court. You can't just get on it very easily at all. So the defense has become so aggressive. It's phenomenal.
Yep.
I mean, that backhand pass that Alcaraz hit to hold serve for 6-all. I mean, from outside the court, 3 meters behind, found that angle. I mean, but so aggressive. I mean, again, it was a time like, if you're going to hit with that kind of angle, you got to get a lot of spin, you got to take a little bit off it, you know. And now it's like, you're just gone. I agree with you. Coaching has changed a lot because of the way tennis is going.
Dave,
just having a look at.
Oh, sorry, Kenny. I just wanted to ask
No,
Dave, what do you see, like, when we watch Novak and Roger and Rafa the last few years? Like you said, you didn't think it could be any better, right? And now it almost, I don't know if you can say it's better, but it's certainly right around there. What do you think would be the next step after what you've seen today? Because like, what is it going to be in 20 years?
I mean, if we just look at what's happened now, is Sinner is kind of like Novak, but 10 mile an hour faster.
Yeah.
In terms of ball speed. So, it's hard to think, but I don't know if ball speed can get that much higher than these guys. But you're always not sure about that. But I think the next step is, I think, the hardest ever to predict, because these guys are so all court. I still think second serves are an area where players can probably get still a little better. I mean, even if you look in that match, like for a little period there when Sinner was coming back in fifth, if Alcaraz didn't make a first serve, it was trouble. And I think players can improve the accuracy there. I do think that the ability to serve and volley still, if you look at that match, that's probably the one thing that didn't really come through. But it's got to be such a surprise. But Novak did show a little bit against Sinner that you could serve and volley, and Novak actually volleyed very well this tournament. He just doesn't quite have the ball speed to win now against those two guys. Wimbledon will be interesting because, again, court will give Novak a bit more. But I think that was also the great thing about this tournament is you kind of saw that Novak is not done yet, and I do think Wimbledon is probably the only court where he could win a game. Okay. But it'll be because he can come forward and volley, and if he's brave enough to do that enough and at the right times, there's a slight shot there. But I mean, I throw that question back to you. It's, apart from a bit of serve and volley, I mean, Alcaraz brings in the drop shot. These guys, the width is unbelievable. It's very difficult to see, what else other than serve and volley and a slightly better second serve where you can be a better tennis player. I don't know what will happen to equipment and string and stuff like that. Maybe there's a bit more ball speed there still, but and how brave these guys are as well. They're playing their way out of trouble with such aggression. What do you think?
I agree with you. I was going to say, for me, the number one thing would be the second serve. And I think that's still an area that can improve. I've always sort of believed that, you see players standing really far back on the returns now, whether it was Sinner or Alcaraz or Novak, and you see them standing really close as well. I don't think that players have explored the full width of the baseline when serving, if that makes sense. I think that you could start to see players moving wider, especially off the ad side, using that great kick serve. I think that would be something. I just think as well that, I've worked with some players in the last year or two as well, when I'm back in Florida, ranked lower in the rankings. And for me, the one thing that always stands out between sort of Magda's level and the lower level players is just the ball speed. I just think that we're going to find that players will just keep getting harder and harder. I'd love to find out some statistics on over the last 20, 30 years, how the average speed of serve has gone up, even though you always had the outliers like Sampras or people like that. I bet you that every single player in the top 100 is averaging out much faster now than they were 10 years ago and 20 years ago.
I don't think that's even in doubt. I mean, I think, Sinner, I think, is averaging, was it 6 or 10 miles an hour more than Novak?
I've got the
Yeah.
numbers here from the
That's
final. 199 kilometers an hour. Sinner on his average first serve speed. That was 7 kilometers an hour faster than Alcaraz. But Alcaraz was hitting his second serve 12 kilometers an hour faster than Sinner was.
Interesting.
Yeah. But what about forehand speed? Because I think forehand speed between Sinner and Novak was on average, I can't remember now, it was either 6 or 10 miles an hour on average. That's
a big difference.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, and Novak is cooking it up now. He's hitting the ball. Novak has hit his forehand in that match against Sinner 6 miles per hour faster than he has done in the past.
Okay.
So he's trying to raise his ball speed.
I said to Magda, we were watching that match the other night, and when he played Zverev and in the match against Sinner, and I said, I think that had Novak been young right now, coming into his age, playing with Sinner and Alcaraz, the finished product in 15 years of Novak would be very different to the Novak of today. I think Novak would have been a lot more aggressive if he was playing in amongst Sinner and Alcaraz, because I think he had a little bit out of his comfort zone in that Sinner match and redline a little bit more. He was having to be a little bit more proactive and attack the ball a little bit more than he's maybe more comfortable doing. So I think that was interesting as well. I think that the way that he has.
Yeah, Novak was never comfortable going forward, and he's really coming forward. A hell of a lot more. So he's doing everything in his power to compete, which just shows what a great champion he is. And that's why I say grass is still an outside chance for him to pull it off, because of his ability to and braveness to come forward and volley, which these two guys didn't do that much today. But in every era, I believe these champions that in every era, if they were born today, would have adjusted and done what they needed to do to be champions. I think their mindset is something different, that they will respond. And one day we'll be talking in 10 years time, and there'll be some young guys like doing things that Sinner and Alcaraz will be struggling to deal with, and we'll be going, wow, because it just happens. Federer and Nadal and that were doing things that Sampras and Agassi couldn't do. But these types of people, in any era, they would have found a way.
Let me just read out some numbers to you guys, because I'm looking at the stats and they're eerily similar. In fact, in total points won, Sinner had one more than Carlos Alcaraz. So it was 193. For the Italian, 192 for Alcaraz. But of course, the difference was that Alcaraz won 8 of the last 10 points, saved 3 match points. So, Dave, you are a mindset guru. He perhaps has got maybe the stronger mentality. He now has 5 straight wins over Sinner. What's going on there?
I don't think so. I think this match ultimately, I don't think there's much to choose between them mentally yet. But I think physically, his movement didn't go any time in that match. And for a little period there, Sinner was struggling movement-wise. And Carlos wasn't. I mean, he was tired, but at no point did Carlos, Sinner had a little period there where it wasn't really going after the drop shots. You could see in the wide areas he was struggling physically. I think that match ultimately was won physically. Sinner did get a second wind towards the end of that 5th set, and you could see him visibly relax and just find it again. And then I just think that tiebreaker, Carlos hit purple and it's very little anybody can do when
Mhm.
a great player, literally everything that's coming off his racket is finding the court. To hold serve for 6-all. Do you remember Sinner hit a great return and he kind of squash shotted a forehand slice? I mean, and it literally hit close to the line. I mean, that ball kind of could have gone anywhere, but it didn't, and landed in. So, and Sinner ended up losing that point. So I think he just found the purple patch at the right moment. And Sinner found it to break him back for 5-all. And I think, something like that, a tiebreaker is I think it's the right thing to do at the end of a match like that.
Yes.
But it's also a little bit of luck as to who just literally finds that vein of, form, because Sinner didn't really make an error in that breaker. I think one.
Yeah.
The rest were all forced errors or winners. I mean, he just was inspired at that moment. But I think Sinner proved his mental strength by hanging in that 5th set and finding a way to take it to the tiebreaker. I think these two guys are going to be, hammer and tongs for the next, 10 years. I do want to say one thing. I hope this puts to bed the idea that Grand Slams should be shortened to 3 sets. Because without this ultimate test, and a 3-set match can never bring in men's tennis the kind of drama that we saw today, or the great finals when Djokovic and Nadal at the Australian Open, that 5-hour 45 match as well. The Wimbledon finals, the McEnroe Borg final. I mean, these are iconic matches, and I don't think 3 sets would be able to. I just think the best players in the world win slams, and for a reason, because mentally, physically, everything, they pass all the tests, and all the tests are there over 5 sets, which over 3 sets, the physical test is not there.
Yeah. And Mark, just quickly, because I know you have to go, I'd love to ask you about the second serve points, because you brought that up. So Alcaraz won 57% of second serve points, Sinner 50. It was 46 total points for Alcaraz, but 57% behind your second serve through a 5-hour and a half match, 5 sets. That's really good.
Even 50% over 5 sets is a good number. I mean, that's already impressive. And like Dave said, I think that's maybe the area where he maybe got the edge. But I think if you're really honest, when you watch back that match, you can't say one thing specifically. It's just literally a point here and a point there, and who got hot at the right time. And, there's nothing in it. I mean, as painful as that is going to be for Jannik, he was great. I mean, there basically was flawless tennis. It's just like that. I think at one point from 30-all in that final game before the tiebreak, I think they said Alcaraz won 10 of the next 11 points. Yeah. And he didn't, like Dave said, it wasn't, Jannik didn't make a mistake. And that was the big difference. Alcaraz went out and won that match in the end, and Jannik didn't lose it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and then that love 40, one hit and it's done. I mean, and with the game Sinner has, you would bet on that, many times over. But yeah, somehow, Alcaraz found something there, and Sinner didn't find it in that moment because, he hadn't won the French before. I think that did come into play a little bit, that, Carlos was the reigning champion, and Sinner, he still had to do it. And I think he just got a little bit nervous there and allowed him back. You can't say, totally allowed him back. He visibly got tight, which is normal, and wasn't able to finish it off there. But I mean, literally one slight mishit from Alcaraz and it's done. I mean, it's right. Yeah, it's kind of. I think sometimes these things are a little bit written in the stars. That somehow it just between these two, they needed this gigantic, heroic, unbelievable match, which seals them as the two greatest players at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First time, of course, they met in the major final, and Alcaraz improves his head-to-head over Yannick Sinner to 9-5. Mark, just quickly, your thoughts on the women's final, because of course that was a blockbuster too, won by Coco Gauff over Aryna Sabalenka.
Yeah, I think it just showed. I don't think it was a classic in the way that the men's was. I think that the conditions were tougher, so the level of tennis probably wasn't as high as they both wanted. But I think actually, this is for you, Candy. Do we put to bed the question of changing Coco's forehand grip now?
Yeah, I actually completely admitted that yesterday, that I'm completely wrong to say that she should change her forehand. She's proved me absolutely wrong. So I take that all back.
No, but I think she's just, listen, her forehand is a weakness. Her serve is a problem at times. But it's incredible how, and I really still stand by this, I haven't thought for the last couple of months she's been playing great. But that just makes it even more incredible. She's so resilient and so tough. And she has this ability to lose a point, to be down in a match, and still has this unwavering belief that she's going to come back and win. It does not matter. She just won't be denied. So I thought that was really impressive tennis. Wow.
Yeah, Dave, your thoughts?
She won that in the head completely. I mean, I think Aryna just was on edge the whole time. Once she had lost that 4-1 lead, she just never really settled down. And, we've all played tennis. You get those matches where you just can't throw off the nerves. And then you play 2 or 3 good points and you think, here we go. And then suddenly you're like this again. And normally at some point you free up and you play. And I just don't think she ever quite, she had those little moments and she was like, oh, yeah. Oh, gee.
No.
They kept hitting her again and again and again. And Coco was ice cool. And really just handled the occasion just way better. I also think a weakness when someone moves as well as she does, and Sabalenka is probably one of the few players who can hit through her, but she has to hit so many balls through her, and sometimes because her forehand is sometimes high and deep, high and short. And I think the tough thing mentally is whenever you get the ball of Coco off the forehand when it doesn't have much on it, you kind of feel like you should be doing something with it.
Yeah.
And then you do something with it and she's still in the point. And that backhand is world class. I mean, it's unbelievable job. And
backhand's unbelievable.
And suddenly you're pushed on the back foot off the backhand. And then you get another slightly gunky forehand. You feel, oh, I've got to do it now. And that pressure wears on you that, you feel like all the time you should be proactive on that ball. And you don't get the gifts that you get of other players. And that becomes a battle of your own nerves as well, because you have to kind of feel like you keep going for it. But that balance can switch where you get a little nervous and suddenly you don't make enough balls.
Yeah, we had
I really think she's exposed. Sorry, Ken. I think she's really exposed the women's game, the inability of most of the top players or all of the players to finish points consistently in the forecourt. Because against Coco, you go to her forehand, you're going to get a lot of short balls back. You're going to get a lot of opportunities to finish, finishing shots that are on the service line or come in and put away volleys. And someone that can do that against her will cause her a lot of trouble because she's so fast, she can always get extra balls back. But if you have someone that can finish off those volleys, those swing volleys, those short balls, I think that's something that gives her a challenge. But I think you saw yesterday, a number of times Sabalenka missed put away volleys or swing volleys or overheads, or And I think someone that can really be clinical at the net or in the forecourt is a problem for her.
But I think that all-court player is still to come in women's, where they've got a lot of power, like a Sabalenka, and relishes going to the net. Not has to be pulled in and nervy at the net. And I think that player is still to come in women's tennis. Martina, in her day, was that player, but without the kind of power and high power they have now. But I think tennis still has that to come. At some point, there will be a girl who can really get forward and finish volleys and actively looks like Martina did, enjoyed coming forward.
Yeah. Maybe that's Mira Andreeva. I mean, she's only 18, but she plays an awful lot of doubles, doesn't she? Plays really well with Diana Schneider. And not perhaps the most natural at the net, but she doesn't mind coming forward. And she's got a very forward-thinking coach in Conchita Martinez. So maybe Mira Andreeva is the one to do that. Right, Mark, we've had 30 minutes of your time. So thank you very much for jumping on. And good luck in Sertogenbosch. I'm actually doing the women's and the men's.
Sorry, I have to run, but...
No. Thank you very much for your time,
Thank you, and Dave.
Mark.
Thanks for joining. Good luck there in Ilkley.
Thank you.
Enjoy that tea room there in Ilkley.
Yeah.
And Mark, Dave, if you're happy to hang out, we'll just talk about the other results that happened at Roland Garros 2025 here on RG Live. Thanks, Mark. All right, so Dave, we've got the mixed doubles won by the Italian duos Andrea Vavasori and Sara Errani. And Sara Errani teamed up with Jasmine Paolin and won the doubles women's title as well. They won Olympic gold on the same court last year. Sara Errani, I mean, she's late into her 30s. She's got very little serve, and yet she's now become a doubles maestro. How do you account for that?
I mean, there are things that happen in life that you just can't ever see coming, and how is it possible? I mean, we know how tenacious she is and what a fighter she is. But it just shows you what a wonderful sport tennis is, because if you look at her, she's minute. There's nothing about her game that says she should be a great doubles player. Yeah. Yet the package works. And I mean, a great returner, just doesn't miss returns very much at all. Reads the play extremely well, but manages her serve, and it's like she just manages everything so well. Yeah. And then Paolini is very good hand skills and just a great talent. But again, not very tall, and you tend to find in doubles, even if you have one smaller player, you tend to have a taller one with them or whatever. But these two are just dynamite.
Yeah, they're both small.
It just shows you that whatever size you are, whatever things you think you don't have, if you can create an effective package, you can do some amazing things in this game. And Errani, has kind of reinvented herself as a doubles player, but she's still playing singles. I think, did she not qualify?
Maybe she qualified. I think she's now at Roland Garros. I think that's it for her for singles. I think that's what she announced.
Okay.
And I'll look up whether she qualified, but she certainly probably gave it a good damn go as she is apt to do.
She won 1 or 2 matches. I thought, oh my God, I can't believe it. She's going to qualify.
Amazing.
Amazing.
I'll have a look at that. But they are incredible. And of course, Italian tennis, very, very strong indeed. 2 men in the semi-finals, Sinner and Musetti. Musetti, of course, unfortunate to have to retire. He won the first set, didn't he, against Carlos Alcaraz, and then retired down 2-love in the 4th. And then, of course, Sinner gets the final, almost wins it. You've got the mixed doubles champions, the women's doubles champions. What is it they're doing so right in Italy?
It started a long time back. And for me, it's just all about the tournament program. And, young players can play pretty much all year round in Italy. I mean, they got tournaments almost every single week. But
Yes.
the other thing, they also invested in challenger level tennis greatly. So there's a lot of countries that got a lot of futures, and it is a good way to build. Turkey, Tunisia, Greece, they got lots of futures, but what Italy did was invested and put in the next step. So you literally could play futures into challengers, lots of opportunities without spending a fortune traveling all around the world. And then they've got a pretty decent and strong club league as well. So there's places there to make money. So I think young Italian players have so much opportunity to grow their game inside the country, not traveling that far. And, that I think is one of the main reasons.
Yeah.
I also think that, from what I've read, and I haven't, I've only seen it in action, but the coaching community in Italy seems to have come together really well and say, look, let's not be jealous of each other. Let's let's learn off each other, and everybody can be good.
Brilliant.
And so I think they've done a great job at becoming one big team, Team Italia, and I think when players grow up in an environment where coaches appreciate each other, players appreciate each other, older players help younger players, older coaches help younger coaches, and you have a tournament structure like that, I think you now see the results of it. And I do think it's actually sustainable. Just like, the French have been sustainable for a long time. And I think it's similar, but they don't have quite the tournament schedule that Italy has.
I absolutely agree with you. I was in Jeddah for the Next Gen last year, and I know you were invited to come and be involved in that coaches conference, but I think you were working with Carl Edmund at the time and couldn't do it. But the Italian coaches were there thick and fast. They were all so chummy, so helpful to each other. And it's something that I noticed when I was working in the United States at a tennis academy, how collaborative everyone was. And then when I came back to the UK 7 years ago and started coaching in the United Kingdom, everyone was on their own. And if you got anywhere near, if you even spoke to somebody's player, it was like, get off. It was just so terrible, so much envy, so much jealousy. And I just don't think that is a good way to do it at all. I think you need to work with each other and try and sort of do the best and work as a team. So I couldn't agree with you more on Italian coaches. And the other thing, Dave, when I was at Davis Cup in Bologna last year, they have free to air television on TV. And they have 2 channels and they showed everything. So they were watching, I was actually commentating on the Davis Cup involving Italy. They did recaps on that. They showed all the matches again. They were showing the women's matches from other tournaments around the world, all free to air. So that meant that a lot of people watching, the fans, the locals, they got into it because they could follow a Luciano Darderi and then watch him from, a 10K or 15K all the way up to ATP level and then the majors. So they could kind of get involved as well, get behind them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, for the sport and the growth of the sport, it's, let's be honest, TV is an incredibly powerful medium. And, when we were growing up, chefs weren't famous. Michelin star chefs, unless you were a real foodie, you wouldn't know who they were. Now they're on TV and you got celebrity chefs and what that did to cooking and the whole restaurant industry is unbelievable because people see them on TV, and so I think that's another point that I didn't actually know about until you said that it's on free to air. Luckily, we've still got Wimbledon free to air, but it's it's a few weeks of the year. It's not more often. So that may well be a factor as well.
And maybe that's why US tennis is going so well, because of course they've got the Tennis Channel, which isn't free to air, but it is part of the package in the United States. Just quickly moving on, Spanish tennis obviously doing really well. Carlos Alcaraz, if you're just joining us on Roland Garros Live, is the men's singles champion. He's beaten Yannick Sinner in a 5-hour, 32-minute blockbuster. And of course, they had success in the men's doubles, didn't they? Because Marcel Granollers and Horacio Zeballos, who's from Argentina, but Granollers is from Spain, have won the men's doubles. They beat Joe Salisbury and Neil Skupski 6-love, 6-7, 7-5. That was a weird scoreline. I don't know if you saw any of the men's doubles final, Dave.
I saw actually some of the first set, and yeah, I think Joe and Neil were nervous or whatever. They just couldn't get into it. But, I mean, I've coached against Granollers and Zeballos. You said a lot better than I do. Zeballos a few times. They gave Marcus Daniel and Artem Sudak, I think it was, a bit of a hiding in Paris one year. They gave Demolina and Middle Coop, I was with them in Buenos Aires, a bit of a hiding. So, I mean, they are on clay a phenomenal team. And I think Joe and Neil did very, very well to claw their ways back in and make that into a very, very close competitive match. But I would have said before that match, Granollers and Zeballos were clear favorites on clay.
Yeah. But the big thing there was because they'd never won a major title, and they're the longest standing doubles team by a country mile, aren't they, right now?
Yes, yeah. I mean, and it always surprised me that they hadn't. And clearly, they've learned from their experiences and finally put that to bed. And I think, for tennis, and obviously it's tough that the Brits didn't get there. But at the same time, I think these two guys honestly deserve to have won a slam. They are that good. And it would have been a bit of a travesty of justice that if they never won one. I think they deserve their moment in the sun, and who knows now what they can do. But luckily for the doubles tour, they're also getting on a little bit now. So,
but maybe they've broken their duck. Maybe there's a few more to come before they call it a day.
Yeah, definitely. But I think definitely clay is their best surface.
Yeah.
I mean, I would make Joe and Neil favorite on grass if they were playing that too.
Yeah, that's a fair call. All right, so just to recap, Carlos Alcaraz saved 3 championship points, and my dog is telling me to wrap up against Yannick Sinner today. He is he's the another champion, isn't he? Guga Kurten and Rafa Nadal have both defended their titles, and Carlos Alcaraz has done as well. And Coco Gauff wins the women's singles with a 3-set victory over Aryna Sabalenka. Your thoughts, Dave, finally on the overall tournament?
I think it's been the full change of the guard in terms of men's tennis, where I think Carlos and Sinner are saying, okay, the Novak era is coming to a close now, and I think the women's game, I think, is shaped up nicely. I think Swiatek is had a better tournament than she's had recently, and looked more like she's going to come back. I think Sabalenka is number one at the moment, but now I think Coco Gauff has got a real sniff and will get the bit between her teeth. So I think it's very healthy. I think overall as a tournament, it's been, all slams are fantastic, but I think this one is, because of the 2 finals, is one of the best in recent memory. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a phenomenal spectacle, and I think overall the sportsmanship, and I think it's led by Alcaraz and Sinner, giving away, like, I'm just calling it as I see it, and just, I think, again, it's great to see that you kind of don't need a villain and a hero. You can have 2 heroes, and I think that's wonderful to see as well. So overall, just 5-star tournament, and tennis is, you know, everybody wondered whether it would stay healthy. They always do. I remember people say, "Oh, what's next?" You know,
Yeah.
we know what's next, and it certainly is not disappointing in any way at all.
It's in a really healthy position. I agree with you, and I think having met Alcaraz and Sinner, and in fact Coco Gauff, and I don't think Sabalenka, but all of those people are extremely humble. Obviously, huge competitors, but they couldn't be nicer. Their parents have done a phenomenal job in bringing them up, and they are winning, aren't they, in the right way? One final question. We spoke a little bit about Novak, perhaps, you know, having his best chance on the grass of Wimbledon, where he can attack a little bit more. We may see Novak coming to the nets more than perhaps he's ever done, just to keep those points as short as he can. But will he ever return to Roland Garros? Do you think we've seen the last of him? That sign off he did against Sinner, was that something that we should be a bit worried about?
I would venture to say if he doesn't win any of the slams, and decides and goes to Australia and doesn't win that, I don't think you'll see him back there.
Yeah.
I mean,
What's the
my
motivation?
instinct is he was saying goodbye. I think he knows, because I mean, you can never. I mean, these champions are phenomenal mindsets, and today they talked a lot about records where, you know, Sinner hadn't won after was it 3 hours and 48 ever, and you know, Alcaraz never from 2 sets to love down. These champions never worry about records like that. They just will make their own history. But I do think that Novak is no fool, and I think he kind of realized that I think he knows deep down that he can't win Paris again. Yeah. And I'm not sure he's the kind of guy to go back and try to win something where he knows he probably can't.
Yeah.
That's my instinct.
He's done it all, hasn't he? He's done it better and bigger than anybody else, and it's up to the others to try and catch him.
Exactly. So yeah, I would be much more surprised to see him back there than not.
Yeah. All right. On that note, David Samuel, you've been wonderful as always. Thank you very much for being on Roland Garros Live. What a tournament it has been.
That's all.
Thanks, Dave. And all the best of luck on the grass, and to your players, of course. I hope to see you in person at Wimbledon.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. Please like, subscribe and share, and we'll be back soon with another great episode.